The last thing my mother said to me was a practical thing. Don't forget the backlatch sticks. Lift before you turn it. But it felt like a benediction. I remembered her voice when I slid the key into the rusted lock, lifted the latch the way she taught me, and stepped back into the house where I learned what fear could do to a child. The corridor breathed out dust. The bulb above the entry, a thin, flickery tube light, hummed with a tired insect's energy. Beyond the corridor lay the small square courtyard we called the Sehen, open to a cutout of starless night, the neem tree's fingers laced over it like a net. "Boss, I'll be an hour," I told the driver, half turning toward the gate. "I'll come back out if I need help with the trunk." He frowned at the empty street. "It's late, brother. If you need, I'll stay." "I'll be fine, brother." "Thank you." He hesitated, then left the engine idling, headlights off. The neighborhood had thinned since I was a boy. Fewer families, more shuttered windows, stray dogs that owned the lane. It had rained in the afternoon, and the damp made everything smell like a cupboard full of old books and hair oil. I shut the door behind me, and the tube light stuttered. My shadow measured itself on the tiles, longer than it should be, as if the house remembered me taller. I pressed my palm against the wall where nailheads had once held my school prizes. The Class 3 handwriting certificate, the framed drawing of a kite shaped like a fish, the cheap medal for a foot race I cheated at by starting a half step early. The wall was empty now. A ghost of rectangular clean paint showed where the frames had been. "I'm back, Amma," I said, and the house collected the words and put them down somewhere I couldn't see. When we were children, my sister and I named the house's noises. The angry cupboard was the kitchen cabinet that rattled in a crosswind. The sleepy step was the fourth stair that creaked like a yawn. The thirsty one was the water motor that came on wheezing at midnight. The sounds had kept me company when the night tilted the world, when the power cut out and the courtyard became an inverted bowl of sky. But there were sounds we didn't name, because naming makes things know you can see them. There were the footfalls that started on the stairs and ended under the Sharpay. There was the whisper that wasn't wind. Our roof had little glass chimes that caught the summer breeze, but a layered whisper like two people speaking over each other. And there was the shift of the shadows when the light remained still. "Don't feed them stories," my mother used to say when I came to her with thin fear in my throat. "They don't need anything else. If a shadow asks you a question, don't answer. Just turn the light." She touched my head with her warm hand and hummed a little tune, the one Nani had hummed before her. It wasn't a lullaby. It was a work song, the rhythm she used when she kneaded dough or scrubbed the courtyard after the storm. The tune traveled through the house as if it knew the way. I walked into the Sehen and paused, because my childhood had laid itself down there, undisturbed. The old height marks, scratches of pencil on the plaster, still climbed the wall by the water pump, a letter of date and initials. AN 7, AN 8, Meru 5.5, Meru 6 in my mother's careful hand, my name and my sister's. My feet knew where to stand, to place my back against the wall. I stood there, ridiculous, at 31 years old, and the tube light buzzed above me like a trapped thing. Height doesn't count in the dark, Meru had told me once, deciding rules with the authority of a younger sister. Night makes us all the same size. Even Abba, I'd asked. Abba's absence had stretched in my childhood like an empty chair at a table, and quotations from him were a currency we printed when we needed to buy courage. Even Abba, she had said, and we had laughed in the small way children laugh when they are afraid. I rolled my shoulders to loosen the decades. The house was to be emptied. The lawyer had made all the calls, sold the smaller items, boxed the books, but there were things he couldn't sell and would not pack. The trunk under the stairs, where Amma kept the quilt we shared when there was not enough warmth in the walls. The wooden measuring stick with a notch carved at the height Meru stopped growing. The box of photographs with silver backs that turned black when you breathed on them. I didn't turn on the lights in the rest of the house. It felt like bursting into a room where someone was sleeping. I lit a candle instead, for the old reasons and the new. The flame made a trembling. The wall behind me brought out mirrors, 3 versions of me, unsteady. Brother, the word came from nowhere and everywhere, small and precise, the way she used to say it when she wanted a favor. No, I said aloud, not tonight. The question that lived in this house was the one I had never answered. Where had she gone? I had gone to school one morning and come home to a corridor full of neighbors, my mother's eyes the color of broken plates, and a quiet that ate all the questions I should have asked. The police had come and gone. There had been a week of tea and murmurs and a car that waited outside every afternoon for the body it did not find. When the week ended, people stopped coming. The house learned to fold itself smaller. The measuring marks stopped. My mother bought a lock for the stairwell storage and carried the key on a chain under her shirt. I told the story 100 different ways, the way I was taught to in my work, by the facts, by the omissions, by the textures of grief. But in the house, none of my narratives held. The house knew the story I would not say. In the study, the one cool room with the high window, I found my mother's little writing desk and the lamp with a crooked shade. I found her ledger, a real ledger, columns of numbers, and the names of cousins who owed her money for grocery runs, and a sealed envelope with my name on it, written the old-fashioned way, with a fountain pen that made the letters fat, where the nib paused. I put the envelope in my pocket and didn't open it. I knew what it would be, a list of instructions, the story of where the pots went, the name of the woman to call if the old tailor on the corner tried to haggle the price of the sewing machine down to insult. The last drawer held an old tape recorder, my childhood friend. It was black and ugly and dignified, heavy as a brick with the weight of captured voices. I found a cassette inside, labeled in my mother's hand, Rain Song. I smiled, in spite of the edges in my mouth. When I clicked the button, the recorder growled and then yielded, and the room filled with a small storm. Rain on tin, someone's spoon rattling in a glass, and my mother humming. She began quiet, as if unsure, then steadier, rattling in a glass, and my mother humming. She began quiet, as if unsure, then steadier. The tune stretched the night across the desk and made the candle burn in time with it. I felt a muscle unclench in the middle of my back. I saw Meru in her nightshirt, thin legs crossed, drawing a horse with too many legs. Again, she would have said when the tune ended. Again. And Amma would have hummed it again, because the house liked repetition. Repetition kept the shadows from climbing the furniture. Mid-hum, something clicked in the corridor. A door, a foot, or the sound of the latch that only lifted if you knew how to lift it. I stopped the tape. The silence came back shivering. The silence came back shivering. But what followed will haunt the night. Watch part 2 to find out, and subscribe now before the next part reaches you in the dark.